Hello, how we doing? We're here to interview Tanya with LuxCode Travels. We're going to talk about airfare and flying private versus commercial today.
This episode is sponsored by me. Pick up my book, Pivot with Purpose From Crisis to Clarity, on Amazon. Now, back to the episode.
Tanya, people hear private and they assume that it's first class, but it's much more expensive. Is that a fair statement?
It's not a fair statement. It is not first class. It is, however, a little bit more expensive, but first class is price per seat. You go online, you go to said airline, you choose your seat, and that you pay for what they say you're going to pay for. Flying private is priced per aircraft. It's your aircraft. You can pay for the whole thing, you have the whole thing. So the real question was never which one is nicer. That goes without saying, really. It's how many of us are getting on that plane? How many? Once you ask it that way, the answer changes really fast.
Okay. So, where are the numbers? I mean, where does it actually do the flip at? I mean, is it price break?
Hmm. Well, domestically, it usually flips somewhere around 4 to 6 people. Okay, so if you go from just one person, you yourself flying private, to maybe 4 to 6 people, changes the game a little bit. So take a coast to coast trip. Okay, you're taking a coast to coast trip. If you have a light jet, one that seats only about 6 to 8 people, it'll run you around $20,000 total for the whole aircraft for the 6 to 8 people. But remember, you're splitting it 6 to 8 ways. So that could roughly mean about $3,300 per person or so, less if it's 8 people. So first class, on that same route, it'll run somewhere between 1,000 to $8,000 a person, depending on the flight you're taking, where you're going. And there's some different factors that come into play on how much that fare is going to cost you. Just you have to look at how far you're going to really be able to compare the two.
Okay, so layovers and straight flights, those all come into play?
Layovers and straight flights, where there is a private flight, there are no layovers. You're flying there. And just think about flying solo. When you're flying solo, first class, yeah, of course, it wins, because what are you paying? Maybe $1,000, 15, 16, $1,700, or a little bit better, depending on where you're going again. But when we're talking about flying private and you got 4, 5, 6 people, it closes that gap real quickly. So, flying private starts winning when you have the number of people you need to split that cost.
Okay. So does that hold true internationally as well?
Actually, it shifts a little bit. And this is where most people get things wrong. Flying internationally can actually bring some different things. You can open up empty legs, and then that's where you can save some money. And you can actually be a solo traveler and possibly save more money than you thought you could.
What's an empty leg?
An empty leg is where the plane has flown somewhere and it has to go somewhere else to pick up somebody, but it would be flying empty if it didn't have somebody like you who needed to get to that place. So then they charge you, but a significantly different and lower price for you to fill the plane for them to get to that spot where they're going to pick up their next client, their next passenger. Think about it, like from New York to London. That's a significant flight, right? First class round trip, it's gonna run you around $7,000 to $12,000, depending on where you're leaving from and that kind of thing. First class air has gone up quite a bit. They have to make their money as well. Well, a private charter for that same route, when you get the whole plane, it's running about $55,000 to $85,000. But we're back to splitting it 6 to 8 ways. 6 to 8 ways, you split it. You can be from $9,000 to $14,000 or a little less. That is roughly in line with that same first class that you would have been taking. Now, when you split that 8 ways, you're under $9,000 a head. And now flying private is probably about cheaper than what you thought that first class was going to be. It's a break-even point. And
Okay, well
really-
that actually answered my next question, which is if the numbers say that first class should win, why would your clients still choose to fly private?
That's a good question, actually. But we got to think about it in terms of time, which is the most expensive commodity that we own. So because that ticket was never the real cost anyway, but your time is, that's what makes the difference. New York to LA going first class, it takes about 9 hours if you're flying commercially, right? You're flying commercially, door to door. And the reason that it does is because you have so many other layers that you have to go through to actually make it where you're going. So that security and baggage claim and all of that other stuff that you have to go through, that is alleviated when you fly private. When you fly private, you're looking at about 6.5, maybe 7 hours. So you got maybe 2.5 hours of your time back when you fly private. And you can spend that time differently, doing the things that actually work in your favor. If your time is worth anything close to what my clients believe their time is worth, then that 2 hour gap alone is worth more than like any ticket difference that you would have. And that's before you count what you're doing, right? You're not standing in a line where a stranger can take your photo. You're not explaining to your kids why your dog has to fly in cargo. You're not hoping a connection waits for you while you try to get off this plane. I just had it with a client that I told her I chose her flight because I didn't know if the plane would let them off in time so that they wouldn't have to be running through the airport to get to their next flight. Time is precious, and it's the one thing we cannot buy. So flying private takes away some of that for a lot of us.
Okay, well, I appreciate that very much. You've cleared up a lot of questions, and you've sold me pretty much because I don't have to worry about TSA. I don't have to worry about luggage getting lost.
Right.
And I don't have to do that mad dash across the Atlanta airport.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for speaking with me. I appreciate it.